July 1st, 2018. A maximum security prison in France. 17-foot walls, snipers on every tower, anti-helicopter netting covering the yards. And right now, a helicopter flight instructor is being held at gunpoint, forced to pilot a vintage helicopter toward that prison. Inside, one man sits calmly in his cell, smiling, because he knows that in 10 minutes he'll be walking out of the prison. Not through the gates, not through a tunnel, but through the sky. This isn't his first escape. It's not even his craziest one. And the mastermind behind it all? He learned everything from watching movies. I'm talking about Rédoine Faïd, the man who turned Hollywood blockbusters into his personal instruction manual. And trust me, you've never heard a story like this. A tiny apartment in the Paris suburbs. 11 people crammed into 3 rooms. 6-year-old Redoine stands in a store, staring at toys he'll never own. His father works in a factory. His mother works multiple jobs to keep the family afloat. They face discrimination, the looks, the assumptions about who they are and where they belong. It leaves a mark. One day,
he took something.
Just something small, a quiet act of rebellion.
When he get caught, the punishment was severe.
His mother makes him a promise. Never again. But something breaks in that moment. Because Redoine discovers an escape that doesn't require stealing. Movies, French crime thrillers, American gangster films, Heat, Point Break, Reservoir Dogs. He watches them obsessively, memorizes every scene, every line, every impossible escape. And here's where the obsession becomes dangerous. Redoine starts to wonder, what if I could actually do this? He's 16 when his father leaves for Algeria. 3 years later, when Redoine is 19, his mother dies of leukemia. And shortly after, Redoine walks into his first bank. He's armed, calm, and when he speaks to the terrified employee, it's not his voice. It's a line straight from a French thriller. Shut up. Do what I tell you. I've got nothing against you. I only want the money. Think of your children. He walks out with the cash, goes back to school, studies for his exams. Nobody suspects a thing. But Redoine isn't satisfied with just robbing banks. Oh no. He's not just committing crimes, he's directing them, each one more cinematic than the last. But there's one scene he can't stop replaying in his mind. Michael Mann's Heat, the armored truck heist, the precision, the chaos, the sheer audacity of it. So Redoine decides, I'm doing that. For real. Industrial zone, outside Paris. A 6-ton armored truck. 3 armed guards inside. Redoine slams his car straight into it. Within seconds, 2 more cars block it in. 5 masked men pour out. Hockey masks, AK-47s, just like in Heat. They slap what looks like an explosive on the windshield. The guards surrender immediately. But here's the problem. There's too much cash. They can't move it fast enough. Police arrive in 3 minutes. Gunfire erupts. Redoine takes a bullet to the shoulder, but escapes, except there's one critical mistake. He left blood at the scene. The police now have his DNA. And suddenly, the most wanted man in France is about to learn what happens when Hollywood fantasies meet real-world consequences. He's arrested in Germany in 1998 after an intense manhunt. But even in custody, Redoine isn't done. During transport, he manages to break free and escape once more. When they finally recapture him, You'd think maximum security would hold him, right? But here's where the story gets really wild. Because for a few years, everyone thinks Rédoine has changed. He writes a best-selling book, goes on talk shows, smiles for the cameras, calls himself reformed. He even appears in a documentary analyzing a botched heist that left a 26-year-old police officer, Aurélie Fouquet, dead. What nobody knows, Rédoine planned that heist. When the truth comes out, he's sentenced to decades in prison. Maximum security, the kind of place you don't escape from. But Rédoine, he's already planning something no one has ever done before. Now we're back to where we started. July 1st, 2018. Around 11:30 a.m., the flight instructor has been flying for 2 fake students, father and son, they said. But now they're holding guns to his head. Fly where we tell you, they say. Meanwhile, at the prison, a guard hears something strange. A low hum, like a leaf blower. But it's Sunday. Gardeners don't work on Sundays. She looks up. A helicopter. On the watchtowers, snipers break open emergency cases. Assault rifles inside. They take aim. But there's a problem. Protocol says they can't shoot at a flying aircraft. Rédoine knew that. The helicopter descends through the one courtyard without anti-aircraft netting. It hovers, never touches the ground. The pilot's hands are shaking. 2 masked men jump out. Bulletproof vests, AK-47s, smoke grenades. One of them carries an angle grinder with a 14-inch blade. 40 seconds. That's how long it takes to slice through reinforced steel like butter. The door bursts open. Rédoine sprints down the corridor, into the courtyard. Chaos! Smoke everywhere! Helicopter blades roaring. He sees 2 inmates watching through the bars, then climbs into the helicopter. As it lifts off, the entire prison erupts. Inmates pressed against their cells, applause echoing through the walls. Even the guards, some of them, can't help but be impressed, because they just witnessed something that shouldn't be possible. Three months later, authorities track him down, hiding in his hometown, disguised in a burqa when he goes outside. When he finally stands trial in 2020, guards everywhere. A psychiatric report calls him a social predator. Brilliant, manipulative. He receives an additional 14 years for the helicopter escape. Combined with his previous sentences, his earliest possible release is 2060. He'll be 88 years old. Rédoine himself says it feels like being buried alive, that the adrenaline was worth it, that he's a sick man who couldn't help himself. Here's what haunts me about this story. Rédoine Faïd spent his entire life trying to live like a movie character. And for a while, he actually pulled it off. The daring heists, the impossible escapes, the legend. But movies always fade to black at the perfect moment. They don't show you the 40 years in solitary. Rédoine wanted to be Michael Mann's Heat. Instead, he became a cautionary tale about what happens when you confuse Hollywood with real life. Because in the end, the credits always roll. But the consequences, those last forever. If this story left you speechless, smash that like button and subscribe, because the craziest true stories are the ones that sound completely impossible.